All right, let's dive right in. We're charting a course for one of the most famous, most baffling mysteries in the entire world. It's a place that's become pure legend, a story full of impossible disappearances and wild theories. Today, we are going to navigate the strange and stormy waters of the Bermuda Triangle and see if we can finally separate the facts from the fiction.
I mean, that's the story we've all heard, right? This idea of a terrifying patch of ocean that just has this endless appetite for ships and planes. It's a single, powerful narrative that has completely captured our imagination, painting this picture of a corner of the world that is just fundamentally cursed.
So what are we actually talking about? Well, it's this huge 500,000 square mile area of the Atlantic Ocean. If you draw a line between its 3 points, Bermuda down to Miami and over to Puerto Rico, you get that infamous shape. Now here's the thing, you will not find the Bermuda Triangle on any official map. In popular culture though, its borders are the stuff of nightmares.
And that right there is the big question, isn't it? Is this place some kind of paranormal vortex? Or is there something, a bit more logical going on? That's what we're here to figure out. We're going to sift through all the legends and all the science and see what we find. So first, let's just get into the legend itself. For literally centuries, sailors have told these wild stories about this area, a place they even called the graveyard of the Atlantic. It's painted as this sea of doom where all the normal rules of physics and reality just seem to fall apart. And the stories are incredible. We're talking about ships and planes just blinking out of existence, gone. Even Christopher Columbus, way back when, wrote in his log about his compass going haywire and seeing a strange light. And the explanations people have come up with? Oh man, everything from sea monsters and alien abductions to energy crystals from the lost city of Atlantis, the whole shebang. But if we really want to nail down the origin of the modern Bermuda Triangle legend, we have to look at one specific, absolutely tragic event from 1945. This single case, more than any other, is the cornerstone for the entire mystery. Okay, so picture this. It's December 5th, 1945. 5 U.S. Navy bombers, known as Flight 19, lift off for what's supposed to be a totally routine training flight. But a couple of hours in, everything starts to go wrong. The flight leader radios in, both of his compasses are dead. They have no idea where they are. Their last garbled transmissions are just chilling. You can hear the confusion, and then nothing. Total silence.
But it gets worse. The tragedy didn't stop there. A rescue plane, a big Martin Mariner with 13 men on board, was sent out to find them. And that plane also vanished on the very same night. So in the span of just a few hours, 6 aircraft and 27 men were gone. Just gone. Not a single trace was ever found.
And you have to understand just how huge this was. The baffling, spectacular loss of Flight 19 became the anchor for everything that came after. It's what took a bunch of old, unrelated sea stories and welded them together into one single, terrifying legend.
So this brings us to a really critical point. How does a horrible tragedy transform into a global paranormal phenomenon? To get that, we have to look at how this legend was actually built, piece by people who were looking to tell a good story.
Right, because these incidents didn't just magically connect themselves in the public imagination. The actual idea of a spooky, cursed triangle had to be invented. So who did it? Who were the architects behind this worldwide sensation?
Well, it started pretty small, in pulp magazines. But the real game changer, the explosion, came in 1974 with Charles Berlitz's book. This thing sold millions and millions of copies by leaning into the wildest theories. Aliens, Atlantis, you name it. That book is what truly launched the Bermuda Triangle into the stratosphere and made it a household name.
But as the legend got bigger, so did the skepticism. And this is where our story's hero comes in, a research librarian named Larry Cush. Now, unlike all the sensationalists, Larry did something pretty radical. He went back to the primary sources. He actually dug through the old military reports, the weather archives, and newspaper clippings to find out what really happened. And what Cush found was, well, kind of mind-blowing. It turns out, when you put the sensational stories right up against the documented boring facts, the mystery just starts to melt away. So let's break down some of the biggest claims one by one.
First up, let's talk about the famous ghost ship, the Mary Celeste. It's a classic Bermuda Triangle story, except for one tiny problem. The ship was found abandoned off the coast of Portugal. That's literally thousands of miles away from the triangle. The legend makers just kind of borrowed the story because it sounded cool and spooky.
Okay, this is one of the biggest claims you always hear. that vessels would vanish in perfectly calm, beautiful weather. But Cushy's research, it showed the exact opposite. Time and time again, the mythmakers just conveniently forgot to mention one crucial detail, that a massive hurricane or a violent storm was raging at the exact time of the disappearance. So what about all those malfunctioning compasses from Columbus to Flight 19? Well, science has a really cool answer for that one. Bermuda is basically a giant underwater volcano, and its base is packed with a mineral called magnetite. It's the most naturally magnetic rock on Earth. This can absolutely mess with a compass, no question about it. It's a real documented phenomenon.
And why is wreckage so hard to find? The answer is in the water itself. This whole area sits right on top of the Gulf Stream, which is like a massive high-speed river in the middle of the ocean. Any debris that hits the water gets caught in what scientists call turbulent dispersion. It gets scattered over thousands of square miles in just a few days. Finding anything is almost impossible.
And that brings us all the way back to Flight 19. When you actually read the official Navy report, the paranormal mystery just evaporates. The flight leader was new to the area, he got disoriented, and tragically thought the Bahamas were the Florida Keys. So he led his men further out into the open ocean, directly into worsening weather, with instruments that weren't working. It wasn't supernatural. It was a devastating, heartbreaking chain of human error.
So, if the evidence all points so clearly to natural causes and simple human error, why does the legend of the Bermuda Triangle stick around? Why are we still so completely captivated by this story?
So here's the real takeaway. The Bermuda Triangle isn't some supernatural vortex. It's a real place with very real dangers. It's a hotspot for hurricanes, it has that incredibly powerful Gulf Stream, and it's one of the most crowded shipping and flight corridors on the entire planet. When you mix high traffic with dangerous conditions, accidents aren't just possible, they're inevitable.
In fact, if you look at the U.S. Coast Guard's data, the truth is pretty clear. The reasons for accidents in this area are exactly the same as they are anywhere else in the world: human error, terrible weather, and equipment breaking down. You won't find any aliens or time warps in their official reports.
And yet, the legend lives on. Which leaves us with one last, really fascinating question. Maybe the true mystery isn't about what's happening out there in the ocean, but what's happening in here with us. Why is it that sometimes we find a thrilling, mysterious story so much more compelling than a simple, logical truth?